delivery across government. Now let me turn to revenue projections for 2026-2027. Mr. Speaker, our fiscal projections reflect a careful balance between ambition and realism, ensuring that we live within our means while investing in our future. Based on the outlined policy measures, total revenue collection, including appropriation in aid, for the financial year 2026-27 is projected to be 3,630.5 billion, which is equivalent to 17.4% of our GDP. Of this, ordinary revenue is projected at 2,985.7 billion, equivalent to 14.3% of the gross domestic product. And ministerial appropriation in aid is projected at 644.8 billion, equivalent to 3.1% of GDP. Grants are projected at 43.6 billion or 0.2% of GDP. Expenditure projections. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure in the financial year 2026-27 budget is projected at 4,820.4 billion, equivalent to 23.2% of GDP. And of this, recurrent expenditure will amount to 3,568.4 billion, which is equivalent to 17.1% of GDP, and development expenditure, including allocations to domestic and foreign finance projects, contingency fund, and equalization fund, will amount to 750 billion shillings, which is equivalent to 3.6% of GDP. Total allocation to county governments is projected at 502 billion shillings, of which 428 billion is equitable share, and 74 billion is additional allocations from the national government's share of revenue, and loans and grants from development partners. So 16.6 billion national government, and loans and grants 57.4 billion. Financing deficit, fiscal deficit and financing. Mr. Speaker, the resultant fiscal deficit, including grants, is projected at 1,146.2 billion, equivalent to 5.5% of GDP. The fiscal deficit will be financed by net external borrowing of 116.2 billion, equivalent to 0.6% of GDP, and net domestic borrowing of 1,030 billion, which is equivalent to 4.9% of GDP. Public debt management. That leads us to discussion on public debt management. Mr. Speaker, debt is a tool for development, but only when managed prudently and sustainably. To preserve debt sustainability and strengthen economic resilience, the government will continue implementing fiscal consolidation measures anchored on enhanced domestic revenue mobilization, strict expenditure controls, and improved efficiency in public spending. Given these reforms, the present value of public debt to GDP is projected to decline steadily towards the approved debt anchor over the medium term. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of the strategic objective of strengthening debt portfolio diversification, the National Treasury is actively advancing a range of innovative financing instruments. These initiatives are designed to broaden the investor base, optimize the cost risk profile of public debt, and enhance overall resilience in debt management. In this regard, the government is considering thematic and liability management instruments such as debt for food swaps and debt for development swaps. These instruments provide an opportunity to convert external debt obligations into targeted investments that directly support national priorities, including food security, sustainable development, and social infrastructure, while simultaneously easing debt service pressures and reinforcing fiscal sustainability. Mr. Speaker, further to this, the government is also evaluating opportunities to access new and diversified international capital markets. This includes the potential issuance of samurai bonds in the Japanese market, and a lot of progress has been made in this area, and panda bonds in the Chinese domestic market. By tapping into these markets, the government stands to benefit from deep and diversified pools of capital, secure potentially competitive financing terms, and promote currency diversification within the debt portfolio, thereby reducing reliance on traditional funding sources. Mr. Speaker, complementing these efforts and in recognition of the growing global demand for ethical and faith-based financing, the government is considering the introduction of sukuk instruments. These Sharia-compliant securities, which are structured on asset-backed or asset-based principles, will enable the government to access liquidity from Islamic finance markets. This will not only expand the investor base to include investors with Sharia compliance mandates, but also promote financial inclusion and contribute to the deepening of domestic and international capital markets. Collectively, these initiatives underscore a forward-looking and proactive approach to public debt management, one that emphasizes innovation, prudent risk management, and alignment with both domestic development priorities and evolving global financing trends. Mr. Speaker, to further strengthen transparency, coordination, and efficiency in the implementation of externally funded projects, the National Treasury has spearheaded the development of the Development Project Management Information System. This innovative digital platform will serve as a centralized repository for real-time tracking of project implementation, monitoring of disbursement, and alignment of outcomes with national development priorities. By enhancing project oversight and accountability, this system represents a significant step towards ensuring that externally mobilized resources are utilized effectively and that every shilling delivers value for money and tangible impact for our citizens. Let me now talk about public-private partnership framework. Mr. Speaker, the scale of Kenya's development ambitions demands that we leverage not only public resources but also the capital, innovation, and expertise of the private sector. Public-private partnerships have therefore become a central pillar of our development financing strategy. Beyond mobilizing additional resources, public-private partnerships enable the government to harness private sector innovation, technical expertise, operational efficiency, and risk-sharing arrangements that enhance project delivery while preserving fiscal sustainability. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to strengthen the public-private partnerships program as a key instrument for delivering strategic investments under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. In this financial year, we have so far mobilized approximately 96 billion private capital investment in PPPs. This being the CRBC/NSSF investment for the Rironi Gilgil, which is A8, and Nairobi Mai Naivasha A8 South, sections of the Nairobi Nakuru Mau Summit Highway. Building on this momentum, the government targets to mobilize at least 70 billion through PPP investments in the financial year 26-27 across the energy, transport, water, housing, health, and digital infrastructure sectors. Mr. Speaker, other priority projects besides the Nairobi Nakuru Mau Summit project include the Nairobi Mombasa Expressway and the Mau Summit Eldoret Malaba Highway, which will strengthen regional connectivity and facilitate trade along the northern corridor. Mr. Speaker, in ports and logistics, the government is leveraging private sector capital and expertise for the development of container terminals, cargo berths, inland container depots, and special economic zones in Mombasa, Lamu, Nairobi, and Naivasha, strengthening Kenya's position as the region's leading trade and logistics hub. Mr. Speaker, in the energy sector, priority investment include the High Grand Falls hydropower project, expected to generate 700 megawatts, and the Karura hydropower project, expected to generate an additional 90 megawatts. Together, these projects will add approximately 790 megawatts of clean and reliable power to support industrialization, digital transformation, and emerging technologies. These investments will be complemented by strategic transmission infrastructure projects to strengthen and expand the national grid. Mr. Speaker, in the water sector, the government is advancing key dam projects, including Radat Dam, Barsalinga Dam, Lowat Dam, and Soin Koru Dam, which will enhance water security, irrigation, food production, and climate resilience in some of the country's most water-stressed regions. Mr. Speaker, in the ICT sector, the Kenya National Data Center, PPP, and the Konza Data Center project will strengthen Kenya's digital infrastructure, support data sovereignty, and position the country as a leading digital and innovation hub in the East African region. Mr. Speaker, together these projects represent investment valued at over $10 billion and will support economic growth, improve service delivery, create jobs, and strengthen Kenya's productive capacity. Mr. Speaker, to accelerate project origination and preparation, the National Treasury has established a framework for rapid results initiative, bringing together ministries, departments, and agencies to identify, develop, and fast-track investment opportunities in priority beta sectors. Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury is also at the tail end of finalizing all the required PPP regulations and guidelines to fully operationalize the PPP Act. This is in addition to the recently issued circular on mandatory disclosure requirements for all privately initiated proposals. These circulars aim to enhance uniformity, transparency, accountability, and build public trust by enabling timely disclosures, integrity, and standard reporting. Mr. Speaker, as we expand the PPP program, we remain committed to increasing the participation of Kenyan enterprises, investors, and financial institutions to promote local ownership, domestic value creation, and reduce foreign exchange risk. In this regard, the National Infrastructure Fund will play a key role in mobilizing long-term domestic capital and supporting local participation in infrastructure financing. Mr. Speaker, our pension funds, insurance companies, SACCOs, and retail investors will increasingly have opportunity to participate in strategic national investments, ensuring that the benefits and returns generated by these projects accrue to Kenyan citizens while supporting long-term economic transformation. And Mr. Speaker, by mobilizing domestic savings and channeling them into productive investment, we are creating a model of growth that is owned, financed, and sustained by Kenyans. Kenya is not just open for business. Kenya is investing in itself. Now let me turn to resource allocations. Mr. Speaker, over the past 3 years, we have laid a firm foundation for inclusive growth. For financial year 2026-2027, the financial year 2026-2027 builds on those gains and advances the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The administration's core economic strategy aligned with the fourth medium-term plan of Vision 2030. Better focuses public resources on unlocking productivity and increasing incomes at the base of the economy through deliberate, value chain-driven allocations. And with limited fiscal space, this budget prioritizes interventions that deliver the greatest impact in job creation, higher household incomes, and broader economic participation. Agricultural transformation and inclusive growth as the first pillar. Mr. Speaker, agriculture remains central to better and Kenya's long-term prosperity. It supports more than 2/3 of Kenyan households and generates significant employment multiplier effects, especially among groups historically excluded from modern economic opportunities. Strengthening agriculture is therefore essential food and nutrition security, enhancing resilience, and promoting a shared prosperity. Mr. Speaker, to accelerate agriculture transformation, I propose, and bearing in mind that agriculture is largely devolved, but I propose a targeted allocation of 64 billion across priority programs that boost productivity, value addition, and resilience. Key investments include 18 billion for fertilizer subsidy program, 2 billion for seed subsidy program, 1 billion for coffee seedlings program to lower input costs for smallholders, 4.7 billion for the National Agricultural Value Chain Development Project to advance processing and market linkages. Further, I propose 5.4 billion for the Food System Resilience Project and 1.6 billion for the Resilience for Food and Nutrition Security Program to enhance adaptive livelihoods, diversify income sources, and reduce vulnerability to climate shocks. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the economic potential of pastoral and livestock systems, I propose 3.3 billion for de-risking, inclusion, and value enhancement of pastoral economies program, 1.3 billion for Kenya Livestock Commercialization Program, and 400 million for the Livestock Value Chain Support Project. These allocations will foster greater market access, commercialization, animal health services, and resilience among pastoral communities. Mr. Speaker, the blue economy offers meaningful opportunity for coastal and lakeside communities. To support the growth of the blue economy, I propose 8.2 billion for the blue economy and fisheries subsector, which includes 2.1 billion for aquaculture business development project, 1.8 billion for the Kenya Marine Fisheries and Socio-Economic Development Project, and 578 million for Kabonyo Fisheries and Aquaculture Training Center. These investments will expand sustainable aquaculture, uplift fisher folks' incomes, and create jobs in value addition and logistics. Mr. Speaker, addressing historical land inequalities remains a priority for this government. To promote equitable access and ensure sustainable land management, I am proposing 9.4 billion for settlement of the landless. Of this amount, 5 billion is for the landless in the coast region. 892 million for the processing and registration of title deeds, and 388 million will go towards digitization of land registries to secure tenure, reduce disputes, and unlock productive land use. Now let me turn to the second pillar, that is transforming the micro, small, and medium enterprises economy. Mr. Speaker, MSMEs are the backbone of our economy. They account for 98% of businesses, provide approximately 14.9 million jobs, and contribute about 40% to our GDP. They span informal home-based enterprises, artisans, mechanics, tailors, carpenters, fabricators, and medium-sized firms. Nurturing this sector is essential for broad-based job creation and inclusive growth. Mr. Speaker, lack of affordable credit remains a major constraint for MSMEs and households at the bottom of the pyramid. To address this, I propose 550 million for the Center for Entrepreneurship Project to strengthen incubation, skills, and business development services, and 1.1 billion for Rural Kenya Financial Inclusion Facility to expand credit access and financial services to underserved communities. Housing and settlement as the third pillar. Mr. Speaker, decent housing underpins social stability and economic productivity. Our affordable housing program not only provides safe and affordable homes to Kenyans, but also generates jobs directly in construction and indirectly across building materials and services sector. To sustain this momentum, I propose 143.7 billion for the housing sector, urban development, and public works subsectors. This package will include 18.6 billion under the Kenya Urban Program, 50.6 billion for construction of affordable housing units, 20.9 billion for social housing units, and 20.2 billion for the institutional housing, and 18.2 billion for critical social and physical infrastructure. Further, support will include 2.7 billion for the Kenya Informal Settlement Improvement Project Phase 2, and 535 million targeted to support construction of county headquarters. These investments will improve living conditions, provision of services, and local governance capacity. Mr. Speaker, to protect livelihoods or lives and property through compliance with building codes and standards, I propose 2.4 billion for the regulation and development of the construction industry, thus reinforcing safety, quality, and accountability across the sector. Allow me now to turn to the other pillar, that is universal health coverage. Mr. Speaker, universal health coverage, UHC, is central to Better's social contract. Equitable access to quality health services is essential for human capital, productivity, and poverty reduction. Towards this end,